Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. How would you like to do it? My giving you lecture and you are asking questions, or you asking questions and I giving you answer? It's up to you. Either way is fine. Let me start with a question. How many of you know how many countries are there in Europe? What do you mean by when we talk about Europe? Huh? 20? It's a continent. Yeah. But, few years back, when we talk of Europe, we basically meant West Europe. All those powers who were part or who were really involved in, the wars and conflict. But over the last few years, I think has our own perception in the Ministry of External Affairs, the government of India's perception of looking at Europe has changed. So we see Europe as not only as a continent, also we see it as one of the civilizational hub. Also, we see all these small countries which are part of Europe. Some of these countries are actually as low population as 6 lakh, 5 lakh, 500,000 for your so which are in India, many of us say less than a parliamentary constituency in India. Now elections are going on. So, but we see them as individual unit and want to engage with each of them bilaterally and in a multilateral fora. So our approach today has changed not only from dealing with the West Europeans and only the bigger multilateral fora, but as we see Europe, now we look at bilateral mechanisms, we look at minilateral mechanisms, we look at multilateral mechanisms, and the established Bretton Woods institutions. So that's the change in our perception. And in that, I think what are the main things that we are looking at is technology, trade. Mind you, I think you cannot, there is beyond a point, you cannot actually push your trade to Europe because it's a very asymmetrical market. We are a huge growing market, but European market is almost saturated. And the tax regime and all those things are almost pretty saturated. So you don't have, beyond a point, trade in goods has to be limited. But what we are looking at is investment into India. They have lots of money. They're rich countries. Per capita GDP is very high. If I see today what Europe is, for your reference, I can give you West Europe, the Nordic and Baltic, the Alpines, the Visegrad countries, and also the Mediterranean, Cyprus, Greece, and all those areas. So if you take that patch of land like that, I think what you are looking at is looking at technology. We are looking at trade to some extent, investment. And then you are looking at cooperation in the strategic sector, including defense. So over the years, we have actually found out that there are these small countries, some of these small countries have very unique strength. For example, to give you an example, there is a country called Estonia in the Baltic. There are 3 Baltic countries, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. If you take Estonia, is the most digitized country in the world. There are only 2 services for which you have to present yourself before the government, or let's say you have to see somebody's face. Rest of the services are all supplied and delivered digitally. So including, I think, driving license and all this are all digital. there is a method. There is also a very unique proposition of uh, what is it called? Data consulate, which the Estonians do it. They have put all their data and stored it in a different country, which is Netherlands. And in case there is something happens, some conflict or some war which happens, and their systems are attacked, their data is still protected in somebody else. So there are countries like Sweden, for example. Sweden is one of the countries which has, I think, more than 270 companies in India. And it's the first, all this Skoda and all that you see. These are Swedish companies. And, they are also supplier of various defense related equipments to the world. And for the first time, they do everything in Sweden. For the first time, they are opening a defense production unit in India. This is the first outside Sweden. So these are to give you, to sensitize you where we are. And then countries like Albania, the Western Balkans. It's a beautiful country. Countries like, Bulgaria. So if you see every patch of Europe, we are looking at that thing. One of the main crux of our European engagement is also connectivity. So if you have observed in the last more than, I think, 6 months, 8 months now, Prime Minister have visited Greece, and the Greek Prime Minister was in India in February. So 2 prime ministers, 2 state visits we had within 6 months. And it has never happened before. Indian Prime Minister actually visited Greece for the first time after 41 years. And Greek Prime Minister visited India after 16 years. But the main crux and we raised the relationship to a strategic partnership level. I don't know, I think I have to come again to explain to you what we mean by all these relationships. The words that you use in normal English makes different sense to a diplomat. A diplomat or IR theorist, those who are dealing with international relations, they have different jargons to express certain things. So when our bilateral relationships can be bilateral, strategic partnership, comprehensive strategic partnership, and there are different level of relationship. So for the first time, we have raised India-Greece relationship to a strategic partnership level, in which we are looking at not only connectivity, we are also looking at our engagement in the whole of Mediterranean. So India-Med relationships. So in the coming, I think, few months and years, you will keep on coming these words and phrases, India and India-Mediterranean relationship. Similarly, we have India-Western Balkan, India-Visegrad, India-Nordic-Baltic. So we have India-Nordic summit, which Prime Minister Modi has attended twice. And third one will be sometime this year. And then we have the India-CII Nordic-Baltic conclave to give push to the business and investment and technology. TTC, technology, trade. These are the main issues. Before I end, I'll actually add one more, which is called mobility partnership. Migration and mobility partnership, where this is a new initiative for the last year and a half we have started. And we have now mobility partnership with many of these European countries, including Austria, Germany, UK, and then we have with Japan, we have something with Netherlands also, and then we are expanding those things. Now there are 4 countries with which we have still negotiations are going on. What is the idea of mobility and migration partnership? Is to curtail and prevent illegal migration from India to Europe, but at the same time facilitate ways and means so that youngsters like you who are skilled, highly skilled, semi-skilled can move freely between India and Europe for employment and for earning your living and then contributing back to the Indian economy. I think that is the new buzzword of which we call MMPA. Recently, if you have also, followed, India also signed EFTA agreement, India-EFTA free trade agreement. EFTA has only 4 countries: Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. About Liechtenstein, if you are traveling in Europe, I don't know how many of you have traveled to Europe. If you drive on the road, you don't actually realize that you crossed Liechtenstein. That's a small country. But Liechtenstein has more industries than people. And the idea of EFTA is to bring in, as you must have read in newspapers, to bring in about 50 billion US dollar in the next 10 years, and then another 50 years in another 10 years, which will generate, hopefully, employment of 1 million and 1 million. I think I'll just give a snapshot of how we are looking at Europe, and I think I'll stop here unless you have any questions. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.